So everybody that's listening, we appreciate you for listening to the program very much. If you're listening to us on one of the 25 radio stations that do broadcast our program, we greatly appreciate that. If you're listening to us on one of the podcasting sites, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, the list goes on and on. We do appreciate that as well. If you are listening to us on one of the podcasting sites, like, subscribe, share, so we can get these interviews out to as many people as possible. Again, we appreciate your time and listening. We have a very special guest. Is a man that studied political science down in South Florida, but from the New England neck of the woods. We know this man very well. He was a senator from 2010 to 2013, also a former ambassador under the Trump administration from 2017 to 2020. This is Scott Brown. And also, I think we should put this out, Senator, before, so people know this, go to scottbrown-diplomats.com. He is a musical sensation, along with his daughter, Ayla Brown, who was on American Idol. We'll get to her and all your musical escapades in just a second, Senator, but excuse me for babbling on, but thanks so much.
Hey, it's good to be on. Hello to you and your listeners, and congratulations. Keep banging away. And yeah, thanks for noting the website for the band. We opened up for Skid Row, the Bullet Boys, Dark Desert Eagles. We played at the Harley Davidson Museum down in Milwaukee during the convention. So yeah, we love it. And obviously, being from Rhode Island yourself, three of my bandmates are from Rhode Island. We practice in Pawtucket at one of the venues there. So it's a lot of fun.
So Senator, and thank you for saying that. We will get into the music in a little bit later on in the interview. I do want to talk about politics because that's the bread and butter of the show. That's the bread and butter for me in general. As a guy that grew up in Rhode Island, moved down to Florida, I've seen my share of close elections and good elections in general. I want to dive back into 2010 when I was just starting out in college, the special election for Ted Kennedy's Senate seat. Do you believe that was a perfect storm for you to win that seat? We remember at that time, we were just coming out of obviously the '08 a financial crisis, the rise of the Tea Party, Obamacare. The debate was really going on in these town hall meetings. And it seemed like it was the perfect storm for you to win that race. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, it's not the Kennedy seat; it's the people's seat.
Right.
And
Very good. Very good.
he passed away, and he had a long career. Over 50 years. I think we should have some term limits in that respect. I personally believe in it, and I would support it. But yeah, listen, it was something where Obamacare was being shoved down our throats and taking away our doctors when they said no, they really weren't. And the economy was bouncing back, but there were a lot of challenges. And if you remember, it was 60-40 in the Senate. So the Democrats had a supermajority that Republicans didn't even need to come to work. And so when Ted passed away, and I knew him, I worked with him. I was a state senator and a state rep in Rentham at that point. We had a good working relationship. I didn't agree with him on much, but he was always very cordial. And I went to school with a bunch of his relatives, certainly. But when that happened, yeah, listen, I was running against Steve Pagliuca, who owns the Celtics, part owner of the Celtics. Then you had Martha Coakley, and the guy that opened up AmeriCorps. So it was a pretty formidable cast. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, they're just going to be like rubber stamps for the next Democrat. They're going to continue with that supermajority. And at that point, I was in the military for 25 years, married for 25 years. I had a 100% voting record. I was an assessor, selectman, state rep, state senator. And I'm like, why not me? Why can't I run? And so everyone said, it's the Democrat seat. It's the Ted seat, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying to myself, no, it's the people's seat and they're going to decide. And so I ran. And if I could just share a quick story, one that really put it all together for me. So I was in Southie. We had a headquarters in Southie in Boston. And I said, hey, listen, I want to go hold a sign down by the Dunkin' Donuts in South Boston on Broadway. And they go, oh, okay. You want anyone to come? I said, no, I just want to go by myself. So I was there by myself, freezing cold because it was the winter. And I was holding the sign, and everyone was basically giving me the finger. So I went back and said, how'd it go? Well, everyone gave me the finger. I thought it was pretty good. At least they were kind of acknowledging me. So I said, I want to go back next week. So I went back the next week, and people were just kind of giving me the nod, like, hey, yeah, all right, good. I went back the third week, and then people stopped and gave me a hot chocolate or a coffee. Then I went back the fourth week, I had like 10 volunteers. Then I went back the fifth week, I had 100 volunteers every corner. And I said to my team, I said, I'm going to win. There's no doubt in my mind I'm going to win.
Because you had a lot of people against you, Senator. You had Bill Clinton coming down there. I know President Obama was doing some stuff behind the scenes. All the Democratic machine came down in the end, but it was too little, too late. They took that seat, as you stated, very good throughout this interview. They took it that they had it, that there was no contest there. It's a Republican from Massachusetts. He's got no chance, as you stated, Ted Kennedy's seat. And as you stated also, it's the people's seat. So how did you take that? Because there was nobody, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because this is going back a little ways. Nobody from the Republican Party of any means was really coming down, pushing money towards you. Maybe they were at the end, but they weren't during the majority of the race.
Yeah, well, when I signed my first contract, it was for 50 grand. I came home and I told my wife, and she started crying. How are we going to pay that back? I said, I don't know, man. I have enough money to pay it if it doesn't go forward. But yeah, listen, there was the machine. They did all their usual dirty tricks. And I went down to the senior center in Southie, and Menino people wouldn't let me in. All that usual crap stuff. But it just emboldened me and made me work harder. And then, you had Obama came in. I remember he came in a few days before the actual election. And he says, Scott Brown, he drives a truck. And, you got to check under the hood in that truck, because you never know what you're going to get. You could get a good truck or a bad truck. And Scott Brown, and he's not a good guy, blah, 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 blah. So people said, what do you think about the president? What he said about you? I said, listen, president's always welcome in our state. And he can criticize me, he can criticize my votes, he can criticize my policies, but don't ever criticize my truck. And people were like, what? And that went viral. Gas the truck, gas the truck. And so it was fun. Martha had already picked out the drapes. They already had it in the bag, like you said. And the Globe was in cahoots with them because they had me down 18 points with like 10 days left. And our polling had me up 2. They tried everything in the book, and I'm kind of used to it. I've run 21 times. I'm 19-2, and I expected everything I got. And you're right, we got no money. Finally, in one short story, I was listening to Laura Ingraham on the radio, and she said, "Well, we're gonna do some damage in the next primary cycle." And I'm like, "Dude, my election's in like 6 weeks," and no one knew. So I got through to the producer, and I got on. And after that interview, she's like, "Wow, send them money," and we got $100,000 like within an hour, and that was where it really began.
And you obviously won the seat. Now, you met President Obama in the Oval Office. You talked about you were the 41st vote, not the 60th vote. What was that like, meeting President Obama? Obviously, it's politics. He's, calling you out at a rally. It's tit for tat in general. But what was it like meeting the president in the Oval Office, knowing that you were kind of the guy that could hammer his, signature policy of Obamacare?
Yeah, listen, he waited. When I won, he didn't call me or do anything for about 2 months. And when I won, Harry Reid put me in a trailer out back, and he didn't give me any phones or any staff or anything. And finally, I said to him, he was walking down, "Hey, Senator, how's it going?" I said, "You know what, Mr. Leader, let me tell you how it's going. If I don't get my office, which was Senator Kennedy's office, and I don't get my staff by the end of this week, you will never, ever, ever get my vote, ever." And so I'm effing done, sir. So, and I got it, obviously, and we got the office painted, and we had a good run. But yeah, listen, I met President Obama. It was an honor, obviously, to be in the Oval Office and meet him. But I told him, he was asking me questions about Obamacare. I said, "Sir, respectfully, we already have Romney Care. We like it. And you're taking away that opportunity for us to self-govern ourselves." Like, what? And he's like, "Well, okay, great interview. Great talking. We got to go." But he didn't call me for 6 weeks, and finally he called me from Air Force One. He goes, "Oh, Senator, it's Barack." I'm like, "Yeah, about time." So anyway, it was no love lost between us.
Right. Well, that's a good. And then obviously you ran for re-election 2012 against Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, the professor who lies about a lot of different things besides her nationality. President Trump obviously made that nickname very well known, but you were debating her and you called her out quite often about her lying, her mistruths in general. Can you talk about what it was like to run against Pocahontas?
Well, after the first time, I had a lot of union support the first time. And then I did on the Zagruder bill, I actually worked very hard to provide the firemen with, their benefits after 9/11. And, but because I was a threat, Menino was even working for me and helping me, inviting me everywhere. He was great. And then all of a sudden, Obama put him on the plane, brought him on the plane and said, "Hey, I'll give you a speaking spot at the convention." And when he came back, he couldn't even look me in the eye. And I said to my wife, I said, he's not with me. It's going to be tough. But we kept it very respectable. I mean, I won most of the state except for obviously Boston because Menino put out the 18, Cambridge, some parts of very liberal Western Mass. But we won a majority of the state, almost like 80% of the state. And yeah, it is what it is. It's fine because I went and I made money and I paid off some bills and then I supported. I was the first mainstream elected official to endorse President Trump in the first go around, and ended up being the ambassador in New Zealand, Cook, Niue, Samoa, and Antarctica. I was the second guy out the door. So whatever, life goes on.
So, how do Republicans gain headway in Massachusetts? Jeff Deal ran last time. He had no shot. It seems like no one has a shot, whether it's for governor, U.S. Senate. There's some obviously in the state house, state Senate, where they can get elected, as you did many times. But for the most part, statewide, it's very hard for a Republican to get elected in Massachusetts. Almost like it's far gone.
Well, if you look at the governorship, it was always in the Republican control because people recognize, yeah, well, we like our state reps and state senators, but we want somebody there to be a figurehead and a check and balance who can use the bully pulpit. Well, you see what's happening now with Maura Healey, and it's no different in Rhode Island. I mean, let's be real, or Connecticut or Maine. Maine has a Republican. Vermont. Vermont has a Republican governor, and we have one federal senator, one federal office holder in New England out of the 32 seats, and that's Susan Collins. So yeah, listen, people, they get what they vote for. You look in Massachusetts, they've given over almost $2 billion to people who are illegally providing sanctuary cities, all the benefits that our veterans and others are not getting, and it's outrageous. So people need to stand up, and I'm hopeful, as evidenced by in Massachusetts, you saw gains not only in Mass, but President Trump lost by 22,000 votes in New Hampshire. That's not a lot.
No, he pretty much did a lot of damage throughout other blue states. New Jersey only lost by 5 points. New York, that was the best showing a Republican's done since Reagan. So he really ran up the score in many other parts of the country, and especially Democratic parts. Even in Florida, where I am, in 2016, he won by 3 points. In 2020, he won by a little bit more, and now he won by 13. Florida obviously used to be a swing state. Now it's a Republican state due to President Trump and obviously Governor Ron DeSantis, who really cleaned clock back in 2022, winning by 19 points. Again, for people listening, Scott Brown here, former U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, from 2010 to 2013, and again, former ambassador under the Trump administration to New Zealand and Samoa. I do want to plug his website. It is scottbrown-diplomats.com. Senator, as we keep going into the conversation here, 2014 came and went. That was a big Republican year as well. Midterm years, usually for the most part, the party out of power in the presidency drew extremely well. Republicans did really well in 2010 and in 2014. You ran against Jeanne Shaheen in New Hampshire, where you are pretty much from in general. Your family was from the Revolutionary War, as we spoke about off the air. Running against Jeanne Shaheen, obviously she's a former governor, then obviously longtime senator as of now. But it was a Republican year. The Republicans did sweep into power again in 2014. What do you feel like the issue was there? Was it that the popularity of Jeanne Shaheen was, very hard to really gain traction on?
So, as you know, I lived in Rentham. I was raised after my parents got divorced. I moved to Wakefield. So I was a former Mass senator, but my mom had Alzheimer's, so I came back to our home, which I'm in now, and always with the intent that we were going to move back. It just got accelerated, and I moved back, and all of a sudden the Democrats, know I'm back, and they start running ads against me, like $1 million of ads. I'm not even declared. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was on boards. I was on Fox. I was making great money, and I just wanted to like be left alone. But then finally, my wife said, they're kicking the crap out of you, destroying your legacy and lying. You got to run. I'm like, all right. So I ran. I had basically 6 months. Hadn't lived here for maybe a month, and I lost to her by 14,000 votes out of a couple 100,000. Yeah, we had her on the run, and the issues were, yeah, and because I ran, the Democratic Party had to spend like 30 or $40 million that they could have used in Alaska, North Carolina, and all these other seats that enabled the party to sweep in. And I have no regrets. As a result of that, I ended up being, was the first mainstream person to endorse President Trump in the first go around. Everyone said I was crazy, and he appointed me as the ambassador, as we discussed a little bit. But listen, I'm looking at it for 26, quite honestly. You look at the delegation; they've been wrong on every issue. They protected Joe Biden for 4 years. And we're not good on the border until the Laken Riley Act. Now all of a sudden, yeah, let's do it because I and others are thinking about taking him out. And then you have obviously the fentanyl, just the energy policies, the wokeness, allowing boys to play sports against girls, really crushing women's rights in Title IX, and not thinking twice about it. Me and people like me throughout the country are tired with these terrible votes. And so, I'm looking at it, and it's no secret. I went to DC yesterday and met with obviously, I met with Senator Thune, Senator Scott, Charlie Kirk, and others. So we'll see.
I'd love to get your daughter's opinion, Ayla, on men and women sports. As a woman that played at Boston College for 4 years, a stud over there, if she got her scholarship taken by some guy that wanted to play dress up, I mean, Senator, let's be realistic. You want to play dress up, it's Halloween. Go wait for the one day of the year, Halloween, dress up as a woman, have a good time, and call it quits after that. But unfortunately, that's not the way the country is. As a guy that's 35, Senator, went to Catholic school throughout my whole life before college and my master's degree, we never had any of this trans agenda going on. There was never, worrying about bathrooms. We had some gay guys and girls, whatever. That's their prerogative. But we never had any of this other nonsense. And it really is an agenda. It's truly sad. I didn't want to dive too deep into that, but since you brought it up, and
Oh, well,
I
listen,
thought it,
you're making, I have no problem with people who make life choice decisions. It's
right.
up to them, as you referenced, and they can do whatever they want. But when it comes to a question of fairness, when they then want to infringe on other people's rights, when you have someone like Riley Gaines training her whole life, and
Right.
this guy who's still fully, a man fully, takes it. He was like what 160th or even worse in the men's, and now he's national champion. It just doesn't pass the smell test. And I've said many times that the NCAA and other governing bodies have to put their foot down. If you want to have a separate league, great, that's cool. Put it on pay-per-view. I'll probably watch it. Whatever. I love just sports, but to think and put these men fully developed, whether they're teenagers or others, it's just wrong. And yeah, Ayla was different. She played boys football. She was the captain of during Pop Warner, played C, B, and A, and loved it. And she wanted to play in high school, but she had a basketball career. I mean, there are unique people women can do that. But to say it the other way around, that you're going to put these guys in volleyball and swimming and basketball, and you're taking away their scholarships and opportunities, you're absolutely right. It's just wrong. It's a question of fairness.
I want to go into some audience questions as we move closer to the end of the interview, Senator. Let's talk about this because you did endorse President Trump back in 2015. A lot of people thought President Trump had no chance at all. We see the tapes on YouTube of Democrats and Republicans heckling him, making fun of him, thinking he's a joke. But you saw through that right at the beginning. You were one of the first people, as you stated earlier on in our conversation today. What did you see in President Trump that all these other candidates, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, the list goes on, that were supposed favorites, that other people didn't see?
Well, first of all, I had served for 3 years and I saw the go along, get along mentality of both parties, really, sucking up to the lobbyists and a lot of the special interests and not doing the people's business. I would look at a bill, I'd see how it affected our state, our country, our debt and deficit and vote. I really didn't care who supported it as long as it made sense. And that I was just an anomaly there. But I wanted a change maker, somebody who was going to go in there and shake it up. I didn't want another Clinton or another Bush or we certainly got that. And don't forget, I remember his hands were tied, one hand, two hands behind his back. Unlike this time, I mean, like I said, I was very lucky. I passed 94-4, but if I didn't have that relationship with my former colleagues, they never would have supported me, and I would probably never have gotten the position. But he didn't even get half of his cabinet and other people. He got his cabinet, but his other people through. There were like half of these positions were open up until the time he left. And so it's a lot different this year. I'm very excited and proud.
So let's go to your ambassadorship. Started out obviously in 2017, being the ambassador of New Zealand and also Samoa. Talk about what a day in the life of an ambassador does. What happens there.
Well, I was called a plenipotentiary. That means the sole representative for the president. I basically, my word is like the president's word, and I was initiating his agenda, which in this instance was to go down there in the Indo-Pacific, and I was the only one there for 2 years. Australia, all these other, they didn't have an ambassador because they were being held up, and I was just kicking the crap out of China every day. Pointing out that they're building and militarizing islands, changing the law of the air and sea that's been in place for hundreds of years, manipulating their currency, over leveraging Pacific Island nations, raping and pillaging our ocean beds and natural resources. And it was very effective. And as a result, all the other ambassadors came and started doing the same thing. And, I'll get up, I'll work out, obviously, and then I go to the office. We have our daily briefings, address any issues that were there, but I'm there to protect the U.S. citizens and provide them on any and all resources. I'm there to bring U.S. businesses into those countries and stimulate business relationships, certainly, and obviously keep the American dream name out there. And I did it a lot differently in that I knew I was going to a left of center country, and I said, well, what do we all agree on? Well, we agree on food, family, sports, and music. Pretty much, right? Yankees, Red Sox, yeah, that's all fun. So I came up with an idea to basically decorate my official residence and my offices with rock and roll memorabilia. So I had 45 rock and roll displays. I had the original Kiss drum kit from Eric Singer in a massive Kiss display of memorabilia and posters and signed things. I had a one-of-one triathlon bike from Cheap Trick above my bar. I had a one-of-one Stavarsky crystal drumhead from Aerosmith. Original Grammy from Blood, Sweat, and Tears. But these are massive displays all over the residence. I had the official part, like the living room and dining room, where we did things more formally. But the rest of the house, you could go and play Eric Singer's drums, and that rock and roll feel really neutralized it. And people, it was an attraction. It was way better than Hard Rock Cafe because these were all from the artists. I mean, all from the artists, and it was really very, very powerful. And it really helped me do a lot that otherwise I don't think I would have gotten done. And I had a rock band over there as well, so it worked well.
Right. And I know you performed over there, and 15,000 people you were performing in front of, maybe even more than that. But besides that, Senator, would you say your favorite part of being in New Zealand was kicking the crap out of China?
Yeah, listen, I of course, and representing the president and his interests.
Sure.
I was there during the Christchurch massacre, and button off for President Trump. I called and said we need X, A, B, C, D, and got it immediately. We're there for the White Island volcano, where U.S. citizens basically died immediately. So when we had an American citizen hurt during the Christchurch massacre, so yeah, obviously there's a seriousness to it. So it's not all fun and games. I mean, we dealt with some very serious political issues. Trying to reestablish. I did a trade deal there. The Kiwi Act was signed. They tried for 50 years. I did it in 6 months. I worked my ass off, but I also, did triathlons. I had a rock band. I had barbecues, American barbecues with muscle cars all around, and hamburgers, hot dogs. and the people dug it, because they love America. They were an ally. People died during World War II training there. We served with them in World War II and in Vietnam. So there's a strong bond there. And I just amplified it, and it was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I have many friends I speak to on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, we're performing in about a month and a half at the New Zealand Embassy in DC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because I know you're performing in the summer at a lot of places over in New Hampshire, but that's good news for people listening to
Well,
look forward to, seeing it online, pictures, listening, YouTube, whatever it may
yeah,
be,
all
to
that.
listen to the senator.
Well,
Senator,
we're up.
go ahead.
Sorry, one thing. We're up for
Sure thing.
we submitted, if you want to help, for the Bristol summer concert series in Bristol, and we're performing at Chan's in Rhode Island as well. So we do Rhode Island. We've done Rhode Island. We play all over New England, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I know Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, you're all over the place, especially in the summer. You're over there with the fireworks and performing in front of many people. I want to, finish off with this, Senator, because there's a lot of talk right now. Obviously, President Trump just got back in office. The first 100 days have started. We're on day 3. With that stated, and he's already putting a lot into action. What are you happy with so far as day 3 of President Trump administration has started that he's already done?
Everything. I agree with everything he's done. I'm familiar with the executive orders, and I'm very happy that he said he was going to do something and he's actually doing it. A lot of these things, whether it's the birthright issue, which quite frankly, the Constitution does not allow illegals to have birthright, according to my research as an attorney and a constitutional guy. That's kind of been changed over the years. So he's doing the right thing, because this is going to go to the Supreme Court, and there's no doubt in my mind that they will rule that, yeah, people that are here illegally just can't come and have kids and call it a day. Yeah, everything. The wokeness. Marco Rubio is a dear friend, and he's already working. I have friends in the State Department. They said, "Oh my God, he's unbelievable. Let's go." And the fact that you're seeing the same thing. I'm watching TV here a little bit. The Democrats are holding up his people again. They can do it procedurally for 7 days. So 7 days wasted that the president needs his team, and this is what they're going to do. And these types of actions by them. Is why the American people didn't vote for them, because they're just
Right.
obstructionists.
I want to hit you with these 3 people: Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard. Do you believe they will all get through?
Well, let's take Pete. I worked with him at Fox. I actually helped prep him for his hearing. Very close, dear friend. Yeah, he'll get through.
Okay, good.
RFK Jr., I have these no BS backyard barbecues. We had all the presidential candidates, 16. And then this year, RFK came, we had 2,000 people. He asked me to be his vice president.
Wow.
Consider him a friend, and vice versa. And yes, he'll get through. And then Tulsi Gabbard, I don't know her. I've never met her, but there's no reason she should not get through. There's a smear campaign going on for her. And, you got to do some type of background checks, obviously, in those positions. But to think she's somehow an agent of some foreign government is laughable. And, just like it's, Trump's in bed with Russia and Putin. Hey, knock it off. In Putin, it's laughable. They just throw this stuff out there and see what sticks. So yeah, I think they'll all get confirmed. Everybody should get confirmed, because under previous administrations, usually the opposing party says, yeah, it's your guys you want, that's fine. The only time that somebody doesn't get confirmed is if they really voluntarily step out because of some type of financial impropriety. You have people that have hired illegals, they don't pay them, they pay them under the table who are running, and it's like, yeah, and then they drop out. But there's no reason in the world. He wants his team. He had a overwhelming victory, a mandate, and he should get the team he wants, period.
Well, it's like Matt Gaetz. He voluntarily left, and that's usually as you stated.
Yeah, he saw the writing on the wall. It's President Trump said, yeah, you've been loyal. Yeah, you go and try to get the votes. And he said, there's no way he could. He did the right thing. Cool.
Right. And good for him. Let's end with this last question on politics, and then I want to hit you with a couple music questions. Republicans on the rise around the country. We hear about Ron DeSantis, obviously me being in Florida. We hear that name a lot. Obviously, J.D. Vance is the guy that's really on the rise after President Trump, because he is the vice president. And Glenn Youngkin we hear as well. what other Republicans do you see on the rise, whether it's on the presidential level, running for Senate, running for governor, wherever it may be?
You mean besides me, you mean?
Right. Well, let's look at Senate.
I'm
We hope
kidding,
you
I'm
get
kidding,
into the
I'm
Senate,
kidding.
please,
No, I'm kidding.
because we need some Republicans in New Hampshire. We only have Sununu. That's it.
Yeah, no, all kidding aside. Yeah, listen, to me, it doesn't matter. I hope they start at the local assessor boards, selectmen, city council. We need good, hardworking, honest people who care very deeply about the Constitution, about, their kids, about the wokeness that's being tried to, move in, creeping in, the overregulation, the overtaxation, being energy independent, all securing our border, all those things. So there's a lot of bright stars out there. And you look at the Democratic bench, I don't think it's as bright. Who do you got? Gavin Newsom, Kamala
Oh
Harris? Give me a
God.
break. So I think we have that benefit, and I encourage everybody to get out there and just run. Or if you don't want to run, help them financially, volunteer. Snooze, you lose. Don't bitch and moan if you can't get out there and vote and make a difference. So yeah.
Right. Listen, Senate, I used to be a Democrat. I voted for Barack Obama twice. I voted for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. After COVID, I got sick of the woke nonsense, the COVID nonsense, and still what they're doing to this day. Switched my registration in Florida after RFK Jr. dropped out of the presidential realm for the Democratic Party. And I changed to Republican, voted for Ron DeSantis in the primary, and then voted for President Trump for president. So as a person that was in political science, it was a huge move for me because I thought a lot of these Democrat politicians were Jesus Christ superstar. And you see the writing on the wall as you get out of the college brainwashing that they do. Uh, and that's where I kind of found my voice. I do want to get into the last few questions again and bringing back Ayla, obviously a great basketball player on American Idol, did very well there. Did some of your love for music rub off on her? I remember watching an old interview that she did. I believe it was on Idol, might have been somewhere else, that she said that you were like Elvis to her.
Yeah, it was on American Idol. Well, when growing up, like you do with any kids, you sing to them. I've been singing to her since she was in her mom's tummy. And I kept putting on, I had a lot of like Elvis 8 tracks or cassettes, and I put them in and I'd sing, hey baby, and I kept saying, yeah. She'd say, who's that? I said, that's me. Well, to her mistake, she was on American Idol. She recanted that. She recalled that story, and everyone's like, yeah, really, that's kind of stupid. But between us, I just trying to, get her interested in music, and it was just a personal family thing. But yeah, I'm definitely not Elvis. My band does do Elvis. We do Little Sister and a bunch of other songs, and I enjoy singing them. But there's only one Elvis Presley, and
Right.
yeah, she loves music. We love music. It's part of our being. I'm gonna go actually practice later tonight again and get ready for our shows.
How did the Diplomats start, Scott?
Well, they started in New Zealand.
Okay.
My first foray into music, I mean, I always sang in high school and college, but I never played an instrument. And after I lost against Warren, my kids gave me a guitar, and within a month and a half, I was on stage playing with Cheap Trick in the Hampton Beach Casino. You can look that up on YouTube. And I played with them probably 8 times. The last time was actually at Ernie Bach's house, and then played with them on Australia, 6 songs, 2 finales, pushing Rick out of the way. Dear friends, love those guys. Played with Warren, Firehouse, James Montgomery, Vanilla Fudge. I was on stage with Alice Cooper. Know the guys from Kiss. Very close with. So and plus I did a lot of work on music pirating and copyright. So that's how I met Rick back in the day. So I've been playing, and now I can play over 200 or 300 songs. I can listen to a song and bang it out. Never took lessons, but it started in New Zealand. And when I came back, I was kind of like, okay, that was great. Now what? And I started the Diplomats. My teammates, my bandmates came up with a name. I didn't want to have it, but they said, no, use your name. And, we're the Diplomats. Let's go. So here we are. Got the shirt, got the shirts and everything, right? I got the drum heads. We sell a ton of merch, which is great.
Yeah, and people can go on again, scottbrown-diplomats.com, t-shirts, toques, all kinds of things on there that you can buy to support the band. in general. And, go out and check some of the shows. There is a whole event section on the website where people can look at the upcoming shows. As I stated, there's a lot in the summer. Obviously, it's a little cold outside to have shows, but the senator is going to be in DC, as he stated, and doing some shows at the New Zealand residence over there. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. Anywhere else people can follow you on social media besides obviously the Scott Brown-diplomats.com?
Yeah, of course. On X, you can go at Sen, S-E-N, Scott Brown. There's a bunch of imposters out there, so make sure you check the verified ones. And obviously Instagram, and then the diplomats at S Brown Diplomats. So yeah, everywhere. Just look it up, and we'd love to have you reach out to us and participate. Like I answer everything. I'm on all the time. Just people reach out and want to know something, we get them the information. They want something signed, we'll get it to them. It's all basically a cost. We just like to get our stuff out there. So yeah,
right.
I appreciate it, Rob.
Senator, I appreciate you coming on, and thanks so much for giving the program time. And we hope to have you on again sometime soon.
All right, man. Go get them. God bless. Bye-bye.
All right.